Hello and welcome to Paizo Live, where we talk about all things Pathfinder and Starfinder. My name's Aaron Shanks, and I'll be your host today. I'm Paizo's marketing and media manager. Today we've got a great show focusing specifically on adventures. We didn't have any hardcovers released this month, so it was a great opportunity to dive deeper into both Pathfinder and Starfinder adventure paths and standalone adventures. Um, and we'll also talk about a little bit about the Lost Omens line and MWANGI Expanse. Uh, Specifically, the first third of the show is going to be Starfinder today. The second middle part will be organized play, both Pathfinder and Starfinder societies. And then the last part of the show will be all things Pathfinder. We'll take a couple of breaks, about 5-minute breaks in between each segment, and that's our 2-hour show for today. Before we get started, I have taken a moment to just make a list of some of the, in case you missed it, news from the last week or two that we've presented at paizo.com. And I want to summarize some of it for you so that you get the bullet points of some of our biggest recent news stories. If you are watching this show weeks or months from the air date, they're going to be a little stale, but I want to try this out and see how you like it. Give us feedback in the comments. Now, our products originally scheduled to release in late April, the last Wednesday of the month, have been pushed back due to customs issue at the ports, and they're currently scheduled to release on May 5th. Although we're still waiting for some of those products to be delivered to our warehouse, so stay tuned for an ultimate release date. It will be early May. However, the PDF only products that we release, like the Starfinder scenarios, the Pathfinder scenarios, and our Pathfinder Bounty, those get released on April 28th as scheduled, as just downloads that you can buy on that Wednesday and download into your digital downloads at paizo.com. We also have a PDF sale going on right now. It's 25% off all Paizo PDFs through Sunday, May 2nd. And that's a really big discount for some really great products. So make sure you go to paizo.com, set up an account, and increase your PDF library. It's it's really great. You might have some free access to a lot of the open gaming license content on various websites, but let me tell you, there's nothing that replaces the actual content full of Lost Omens world building goodness that you're not going to want to miss. Dynamite Comics has a Kickstarter for Pathfinder Fumbus, the Pathfinder Fumbus comic, and it has already funded. But you are not going to want to miss this big special one issue introduction of our iconic goblin alchemist. It's a comic book all about Fumbus. You can just go to Kickstarter and then type in Pathfinder Fumbus, Fumbus, and it'll take you to the Kickstarter page. Owlcat Games has announced that their beta version of the Wrath of the Righteous computer RPG game will release on May 5th for those that backed it. That's going to be a large number of you, and I know there's a lot of excitement out there. For those of us who didn't back it, or those of you who didn't back it, it's motivation to back the next one and get an early beta copy. Geek Grind, our partner that produces amazing organic Colombian family-grown coffee, has some digital discounts, 25% off. Here's my product placement moment. Here we've got Cadence Cup and we've got Goblin Gulp, and they're both excellent coffees that I've had myself and can highly recommend. And those discount codes for 20% off, there's a lot of them. Dungeon Crawl, all one word. Lost Omens, all one word. That first was to celebrate Abomination Vaults. The second was to celebrate the Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. There's One Shot, all one word. And of course, that was to celebrate our new Sundered Waves one shot. And lastly, Space Goblin, because we want to give some Starfinder love. So Space Goblin, all one word, 20% off discount code at Geek Grind. You're not going to want to miss that. Pardon me. Next, Roll20, our VTT partner, has released the Pathfinder Beginner Box, the Troubles in Otari Pathfinder Adventure, Sundered Waves Pathfinder One Shot, and Bestiary 3. Those are just some of the biggest, newest releases that you're going to want to have on your radar if you use Roll20 Virtual Tabletop. If you're a fan of Fantasy Grounds, they have a lot of great Starfinder and Pathfinder adventures available. They've got many of the Pathfinder bounties. Those are 1 hour, easy to drop into any game, little scenarios, little bounties that you can use in the society play or your homebrew. And those are available on Fantasy Grounds. Also, the first 2 volumes of Abomination Vaults are already there. And Starfinder Fly Free or Die, most of those volumes are there, so you can get started. They also have Starfinder Alien Archive 2 at, I believe, 20% off right now for a few more days. So if that's your preferred VTT, you can go there and take advantage of those. I wanted to give a shout out to our entertainment partners, which are our licensed partners creating Twitch content and podcasts. Those currently are Glass Cannon, the DAT Network, who produced this show for us. Thank you very much. Roll for Combat, Find the Path, Fantastic Worlds, Cosmic Crit, and Hideous Laughter. So they all have shows going on right now in their various formats. So check them out. Next is just a heads up that the content we create called Starfinder Scoured Stars happens every Wednesday. There's a limited series going on of 10 episodes in which it's our first Starfinder show that we've produced with a cast other than our own staff, and it's really great. I love it. It's funny and entertaining. But last Wednesday night we had a little bit of a hardware hiccup, so that episode was canceled, and we're just going to fall back and regroup and show episode 6 next Wednesday. So we hope that you join us, and we'll just extend the limited run 1 more week so that it butts up right against PaizoCon. And lastly, I just want to acknowledge that Paizo's Starfinder on Alexa won Voice Experience of the Year, and Paizo won Alexa Voice Developer of the Year at the Project Voice 2021 Awards. And so that's a kind of a cutting edge technology in which you can, it's a solo adventure using your Amazon Alexa smart device. And we put a lot of hard work into that and innovated something new. And it's really great to see the Starfinder team get some recognition for it. So I wanted to shout out about that. Now, let's meet our guests. Let's meet Starfinder developer Jason Tondro. Jason, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. Good to be back.
Thanks. Yeah, you were on episode 1, so thank you for coming back. But I thought a couple of things. We'll start with the basics.
Sure.
What is your title and what is it you do?
So I'm a developer on Starfinder. I mostly do adventures. In fact, I was a lead developer on the Fly Free or Die adventure path, which is finishing up this month. We're going to talk about in a bit. I also have developed 2 so far of our new module line. These are self-contained adventures that are not part of a 6-book path, right? So if you want to do an adventure that's longer than 1 night, but it's not going to take you a year and a half to finish. And I've developed 2 of those so far. The first one, which is Junker's Delight, which we may also talk about a little bit later on today. So yeah, that's mostly what I do. I develop adventures for Starfinder.
Excellent. All right. And our next guest is author Jessica Catalan. Jessica, hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jessica is our first freelance author to join Paizo Live, and we're really excited to have her. I have to say, it's been amazing fun to learn about all the projects she's been involved in recently, both Pathfinder and Starfinder. Jessica, in talking to you, we laughed because you could have probably had something to say about every product that we're talking about over the next 2 hours. But why don't you tell everybody what some of those products are that you've been touching recently for Paizo?
Sure. So I'm a freelance author. Folks like Jake and lots of other developers at Paizo invite me to work on projects, and then I get to take whatever needs to be done for that and write it up and turn it back in, and then they give it an edit make it extra awesome.
Mhm.
On the Starfinder side, I have written 4 Starfinder Society scenarios. So that's the Withering World, which was 2-3, 2-15 with the Infernal Gallery, 3-2 Subterranean Safari, and 3-14 Fleeting Truth Hollow Lies. For the Starfinder side, I've also done Starship Operations Manual. I got
Yes.
to work on the Noricama Syndicate, including, which is a starship corporation, and then some of the starships that they put out. I contributed to Alien Archive 4, which was the Grioths, Mburzalot, which are on the cover, and the Psychopoms. I wrote book 6 of the Fly for Your Die Adventure Path, The Gilded Cage. And then I also worked on a lot of unreleased product, including Galaxy Exploration Manual, Tech Revolution, and Galactic Magic. And then on Pathfinder, I wrote number 2-5, Balancing the Scales for Pathfinder Society. I contributed to the Advanced Player's Guide. I contributed to Lost Omens Legends. I got to do Bellamarius and Sortion for that. I wrote creatures for the back of AP 159, I believe, All or Nothing. I wrote androids and Arzaketi for the Ancestry Guide. And I wrote creatures for Bestiary 3. I did androids as Arceti, Gorin, and all the Mortics. And then unreleased stuff that I can mention, I wrote for Lost Omens Grand Bazaar, Secrets of Magic, and Guns and Gears.
There you go. Now you can see why I'm so excited. That's why I'm, yeah, right. That's what you can talk about.
That's what I can talk about, yeah.
You can see why I'm so excited to have you on tonight. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just wanted to get both you and Jason together so that we can specifically talk about Fly for Your Die. It's the last volume that's releasing this month for the 6-episode arc, the 6-volume arc. So I wanted to revisit that. Let me find my notes so that we can look at, just to summarize, we'll take a look at the Fly Free or Die Adventure Path. Yeah. It's a 6-part monthly campaign in which a merchant crew with an experimental starship tries to get rich, escape planetary assassins, and outwit their rivals. So that's the thumbnails version of what the Adventure Path is. We've been talking about it for several episodes now. Jason, I wanted to have you back to talk about the arc of the Adventure Path itself, and all of the exciting thing about every Adventure Path is the content that it adds. Yeah. Not only the plot, and the plot is great, yep. And we can talk about that and the journey that it's taken. Yep. Oh, okay. Wait a minute, Jason. I need everybody's attention right now. Yeah. And I just need to be able to say out loud, this is an adventure heavy episode. We're just gonna talk about spoilers as they happen. This is your spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Right here, right now. It's gonna be really hard to talk about these adventures without spoiling some things. Yeah. So you've all been warned. And let's get on with it. I'm excited. So we'll talk a little bit about the plot of Fly for Your Die and also the back matter content, because I think that's really, added a lot to the game. Do you want to give an introduction to that, Jason? And then Jessica, if you had a chance to contribute to back matter, jump in, but mostly we'll go and talk about your last volume after we talk to Jason.
So there's 2 parts of that. The first is kind of the overall story, and the second is the back matter. So let's start with the story. I pitched Fly for Your Die from the beginning as rags to riches to ruin to revenge. So the player characters, they're like scoundrels and smugglers and merchants, and they're not out here to save the galaxy. They're just trying to pay rent on their starship, right? And so you're like hustling from planet to planet, trying to buy low, sell high. Meanwhile, like your former corporate bosses are sending out assassins after you because maybe you stole their starship. And then there's this organized crime boss that's sending bounty hunters after you because maybe he's the one that hired you to steal it and you're a loose end. And so there's a lot of like sort of Han Solo kind of feel to this whole adventure path. But that arc, rags to riches to ruin to revenge, is built into it. So the player characters get rich, right? Well, then they lose everything and they come back to get revenge on those people that done them wrong, right? And that's when Jessica came in, because I needed her to do the revenge part. And I gave Jessica, I gave you like a really hard job. Like I've talked about, I'm doing this this kind of developer diary series on YouTube, where I sort of go into each volume one at a time. And I can't wait to get to yours, because like when I wrote the outline, I remember now, like I was like, okay, well, here's the deal. Like the player characters have this organized crime boss that they've been fighting, kind of that's been chasing them for like, 6 volumes, right? But I wanted to do it differently than volume 5, because they have a different big boss in volume 5. And in that one, you kind of go after the boss and you track them down, and you kind of execute justice, right? But I didn't want to just do another one of those. Like I wanted to flip the script. So instead, the player characters lure the bad guy to them, and they set this big elaborate trap, which is why it's called the Gilded Cage, right? Like we want to set this beautiful trap, and we lure the crime boss into it, and then we jump it, right? Like that's and I had no idea how to do this. and I just sent you the outline, and I was like, okay, so here's the idea. You have to come up with a trap that the player characters would do. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you come up with a trap plan that the player characters come up with on their own, right? Like, and it's very, very difficult to do. It was a very hard challenge. And I gave it to you, and you pitched me an outline idea, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I love this. Like, I throw you the fastball, and you knock it out of the park. And I'm like, okay, this is great. So then Jessica wrote up how that happens. Like, they like the player characters arrive on this space station with a wonderful cast of characters. Okay, so I have to say, all the authors for Fly, Fear, Die were talking behind the screen as we were working on the adventures. And someone was like, okay, I want to use an uplifted bear. Can I use an uplifted bear? And everybody wanted to use uplifted bears. There were like 4 different authors that wanted to have it uplifted bears in their adventure. But Jessica was first. She wrote to me first. She said, can I have an uplifted bear in this adventure? I'm like, okay, you get the one uplifted bear. so we have like this really cool, like, sort of space station garden planet thing going on with the uplifted bear in charge, and the players end up arriving, and this is where they set up their trap. Anyway, so it came out really well, and I was very grateful for that. A bit of a behind the scenes bit here. When we developers are looking for somebody that we're going to hire, that we're not going to have to do a lot of development work on, like we all try to hire Jessica. Jessica is like the person we go to when we want a really light load to work on. So, which is great, because I had very little time. Like I had like a couple of weeks to develop her adventure. And for anybody who's a developer out there, that's like 1/3 the time you should have. And so I had about 2 weeks to do this, and like, thank God, because Jessica had done such a great job. Like I really only had to, I like she said, like I kind of did an edit, and I cleaned up a little bit, and I, maybe spruced up a few things here and there, but I was just polishing the gemstone.
That's great. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Gilded Cage, just to show a little more art. We can always go back and revisit some of the back matter as we talk.
Yeah, great.
I think you just did describe what the plot is like, but I'll just add that it's a Starfinder adventure for 4 11th level characters. It concludes the adventure path.
Yeah.
And let's see, the volume includes advice on continuing the campaign beyond 13th level, full details of Smuggler's Moon, an elite paradise and refuge for the galaxy's most illustrious and wealthy criminals.
Yeah.
And I think we we have some art to talk about those elements. But Jessica, why don't you tell us a little bit about the story and what you created?
So when Jake invited me to write for Fly for Your Die, I had only been freelancing maybe 6 months at the time. So it was really surprising. And it was definitely the biggest project I had been entrusted with in a long time. And the outline was, yes, it was really short.
Yeah.
So it was really, really fun to get to dig in and make so many decisions. So Fly for Your Die, throughout the entire Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I finish that thought if you'd like to, but also we're interested in what it's like to try to put a button on a plot that five people before you have been writing. So, if you know, how do you take what was written before, or do you take that into account? You were just given a short outline, and that's really, are you kind of looking with blinders on at just that outline?
So you definitely have to look at everything, especially because Fly Free or Die so strongly takes into account everything that
Yeah.
the players have done in all the previous volumes.
Yeah.
How you treat people changes how they're going to treat you in turn. And you have the chance to be a good person or really not, or somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
or just care about the money. So I need to see all the ways that all the volumes before mine have done that and the kinds of stories they've told. Make sure I continue those themes, but make sure I do it in a different way.
Yeah.
And then also make sure that the ending can live up to that, because I wanted to not only make sure the people you meet you can change and care how you act. And it's very, especially this volume, I tried to make it very wide open. Like, how you make this plan, how you explore this location, the characters who might become important, how they treat you, even how the people of this place just treat you in general. Um, that really needs to be something that your players can affect. But also, I wanted the location to be something that you could really change as well, because throughout it, you come up against a lot of really large corporations or big things, and you might be able to strike back against a person at them, but you can't take down the whole company.
That's
You
right.
can't take down, the entire calistocracy, right? Like, there's a lot of big things that you don't have a hope of changing. And I wanted to make sure that the location we chose for this, or that I created for this, really was a place that you have a chance to actually not just affect the people around you, but the place itself,
That's right.
right? There is a lot of ways you can change the place, the people, how it treats people, if if your characters care about that or not, right? And then being able to make sure that the plot itself comes to a satisfying conclusion. They were all really fun challenges. Yeah.
That's great. You know, I think we have some art of one of the starships in the episode, and
Oh, no.
we won't give too many spoilers away about the capabilities or the stats of the starship. But I just had to showcase what a gorgeous piece of art that is, and the menace that it
This is
it brings forth.
this is Lord St. John's starship. He's been the players meet St. John for the first time in Volume 1 when he hires them to steal the Oliphant, and then there is his sudden but inevitable betrayal at the end of the book, right? Where
Yes.
he and the whole for the rest of the adventure path, he's trying to get the ship back so that he can steal its experimental technology. Well, he finally does get it in Volume 5, and the players get it back, hopefully. But in the meantime, he's able to copy the technology and he puts it in this ship, which he's had waiting ever since. And this is
Yeah.
kind of the bigger, badder version of the Oliphant that Jessica came up with for this last volume. It's great.
That's right. It's Jessica's innovation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you. That's about what we have time for today for the Gilded Cage and Fly Free or Die.
Sure.
As I've said, the final volume will release in early May in both print and PDF, and I think it's been a really popular adventure path so far, and I know a lot of streamers and podcasters are intending to bring it to life in the year to come. So
Yep.
I think its legend has only begun.
There
I'm
are a
really
lot of shows streaming it already. It's
Yeah.
wonderful to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So thank you. We're going to move on to the other adventure, the Starfinder adventure that I wanted to talk about today, and that's the standalone adventure, Junker's Delight.
Yeah, sure.
And just to recap, that's our first standalone for the Starfinder line. And a little bit of the introduction is that centuries ago, the stellar flare, a science vessel researching the strange dimension known as the Drift, crashed on the surface of Akaton. Yeah. And now an android with a claim to the stellar fire wants to find the wreck and rescue its valuable research. And in short, the heroes are hired or have volunteered to participate in finding this lost spacecraft.
Yeah.
And
I love this.
Yeah, Jason, go right ahead. Tell us what you know about Junker's Delight.
So for one thing, there is so much plot actually on this cover. Like, okay, first, if you look in the background, you can see the Ikeshti, the red like lizard guys that live on Akaton. And in the front, of course, there's the space goblins. Well, that's the plot of half the adventure. These two warring tribes, the Ikeshti and the space goblins, live in this area of Akaton that's like a giant junkyards, right? That as far as the eye can see, like crash starships and all kinds of junked up vehicles and weapons and gear. Anyway, and wandering around this place is this enormous junk golem. And the players have to sort of broker a peace between these two rival groups, and of course fight the junk golem in order to get into the stellar flare that you already mentioned, which is kind of the big crash spaceship that where all the high technologies that they're trying to get to. This adventure was written by Jason Keeley and Misha Bush-Egger, one of our new writers, came in to write the gazetteer of the town of Kefex Depot, where the adventure is set. This is important for a first level adventure. This whole adventure is designed for new GMs and new players. This is really important. It's a huge part of the whole design and development and outline of this book. So it's got, for example, you don't need anything other than the Starfinder core rulebook to play this adventure. You don't need the Alien Archive. You don't need anything else. Even the Alien Archive stat blocks are reproduced in the adventure. So you need the core rulebook and this book and like some dice, and you're good. Then it's also got a bunch of GM advice all through the adventure. Keeley, who knows Starfinder better than maybe anybody alive, Keeley has put in all these great like sort of GM tip advice sidebars on like how to handle radiation when radiation shows up, or like a bad guy's got the confusion power and how do you do that? Or there's a trap field here. How do the players navigate the trap field? How do you roll to find traps? How do you disarm traps, right? Like all the just really kind of onboarding stuff designed to help a new GM and new players learn how to play the game. Junker's Delight is aimed right at those folks. And it's a really fun, kind of wacky, whimsical, but also very action-packed adventure with lots of great rules options in the back. So we've got like a bunch of junk-related gear that the space goblins have built out of these wrecked spaceships, you know, and you got junk-powered armor, and there's a Junkomancer archetype for people that want to use junk spells. So there's all kinds of great stuff packed in here that you can only get in this adventure. Cool treasure that you can't find anywhere else. And Keeley did a wonderful job on it. It's
great.
Yeah, it's a fun adventure.
We definitely talked about it in the last episode, so you can go back to Paizo Live episode number 2 and hear Keeley talk about it himself. But we definitely wanted Tondro's input today too, because you were the developer on it, right? So we've got both an author's perspective and a developer's perspective.
You know, when we reduced, we had people have been asking for one-shot adventures in Starfinder for a long time, at different size scales, right? Like, do we want a one-night adventure that you can maybe play in 3 or 4 hours? And we've got those coming out. Or do you want something that's maybe like a month's worth of play, right? Like 3 or 4 or 5 sessions worth, where like everybody can have fun. They can level up a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And Junker's Delight goes from 1st to 4th level, which is great because that 4th level means your Technomancers and Mystics get 2nd level spells, right? And you can really feel like you've gotten a good power boost.
Excellent. That's great. I'm sure this is going to be a really big adventure for streamers and podcasters as well, who just kind of want to dive into Starfinder for the first time. It sounds like it'll hold their hand and make them feel more comfortable with the Starfinder.
If you're a Pathfinder player, or you're interested in sci-fi but you've never played Starfinder, like Junker's Delight is the adventure for you. It's going to walk you all the way.
Thanks, Jason. Let's. That's about what we have time for Starfinder today. Where can people find you, Jason, on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Dr. Comics, all one word, DoctorComics. My developer diary is on the BAMF network, the BAMF podcast. And, I'm on Facebook and stuff, but Twitter's kind of my zone.
Great. Do you have a Pathfinder Live spoiler for us tonight?
Yeah. Okay. So you fight Lord St. John at the end of Jessica's adventure. And I just want to warn you, like, this is a staged boss battle. Okay. Like, when you think you've defeated St. John, you have not defeated St. John. Like, he has not yet attained his final form. Okay. So just be ready. Like, don't use everything right away, because you're not done.
Your spoiler is pace yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, is good guidance in every adventure, but I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Jessica, where can people find you?
So you can find me on nearly all social media as D20 Diaries.
Great. I've seen you there on Twitter myself. So do you have a pipe? No, this is the first time we've had a freelance author give a Paizo Live spoiler, but we think we have this all prepared. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I get to give out 2 little spoilers. So I contributed to Galaxy Exploration Manual, and one of the things that I got to do for that book is create some class options for the Witch Warper and the Technomancer. So I have permission to share one of each for the book for you. I chose for the Technomancer a magic hack called Toxic Spell, which pretty much is if you're dealing an instantaneous spell that's going to deal damage and you are holding a dose of injury poison, maybe that you harvested from these cool places you've been visiting, you can expend the poison to deliver it along with your spell to the target.
Oh, that's very cool. I love
which
that.
was super fun. And my Witch Warper one is Eldritch Siphon. So this is a 14th level paradigm hack, which lets you once per day siphon eldritch energy from an alternate reality to cast a spell without having to expend your spell slot. So you can squeak a little bit of extra magic out of the day.
That's going to be useful.
Yeah.
Great.
With extra spells.
Indeed.
Not bad.
Thank you both for joining me tonight and for sharing all of your insider insights to all the Pathfinder Starfinder products you've been involved in creating. Thank you both.
Okay.
Now we're going to take a break for about 5 minutes and return with talking about Paizo organized play and PaizoCon. We'll be back in 5 minutes. See you soon.
Paizo's newest releases have arrived at your favorite local game store and Paizo.com. With more than 300 classic and new monsters, the Pathfinder Bestiary 3 is a beautifully illustrated hardcover rulebook that fills out the core collection of monsters at your table. Don't miss the new troop rules that provide stat blocks for a collection of foes that otherwise might not be much of a threat by themselves. Also available in special and pocket edition formats. Eyes of the Empty Death is a Pathfinder adventure that concludes the Abomination Vault's adventure path, a 3-part campaign in which heroes explore a sprawling mega-dungeon to stop an ancient evil from renewing her monstrous vengeance. This adventure also includes an expanded look at ghosts, an examination of an elder god, and powerful new rules and monsters. Crash and Burn is a Starfinder adventure for 9th level characters. It continues the Fly Free or Die adventure path, a 6-part campaign in which players take on the role of a merchant crew with an experimental starship. Their mission is to get rich, escape interplanetary assassins, and outwit their rivals. The volume also includes a series of side jobs, short mini-adventures the Game Master can insert into the campaign at any time. You'll also find a collection of new and dangerous aliens and details on the corporations that dominate the galaxy. For years, the pirate captain Rinlock sailed the coast of the Arcadian Ocean from the Shackles to the south and to the waters of Varisia to the north. He searched for plunder and adventure until one day his luck ran out. Pathfinder one-shot Sundered Waves is a Pathfinder 2nd Edition adventure that can be run in a single 3 to 4 hour session and kicks off a new series of standalone adventures. It includes pre-generated characters whose backstories and motivations tie closely into the plot. Check it out at paizo.com/Sundered Waves. A caravan is set to depart from a small town, but it needs some capable guards. It is up to the player characters to step in and ensure the caravans and its passengers reach their destination. The Tireless Path is a Pathfinder bounty designated for an hour of play and is easy to add to any fantasy campaign. The Pathfinder Society has its hands full, quelling panic spreading throughout a Caduran city when a party hosted by an infamous genie binder goes horribly wrong in Freedom for Wishes. At the same time, they're looking to reinforce their bonds of friendship with the Farhaven clan of Sarkoris. In the Pathfinder Society scenario, a dirge for Sarkoris. In the Starfinder Society scenario, Rat's Repentance, a strange turn of events finds the heroes working with a former enemy, the Yosoki mastermind Datch. While on the other front, the Starfinder Society nears its goal of recovering the final data fragment containing one of its greatest secrets and the fleeting truth, ever-changing revelation. Enemies and allies take their places in your tabletop with the Agents of Edgewatch Pawn Collection. This box features more than 100 pawns for use with Pathfinder 2nd Edition or any tabletop fantasy RPG. A hero collects treasure at every step of their journey, and no treasure is more prized than mighty magic weapons and incredible enchanted armor. The Pathfinder Magic Armaments deck contains 110 cards detailing every magic armor, weapon, and shield in the Pathfinder core rulebook, along with runes and special materials. There are regions in the wild where the environment itself is hostile. Pathfinder Flip Tiles Wilderness Perils expansion is the newest expansion to the Flip Tiles Wilderness starter set and includes 24 full-color 6x6-inch double-sided tiles. The Starfinder Flipbat Solar Temple is a double-sided map that features an ancient Solarian hermitage on one side and a futuristic cloister in space on the other. A special coating allows you to use wet erase, dry erase, and permanent markers with ease. Find your path to friendship and adventure with these new releases and more at Paizo.com and your favorite local game store.
You've destroyed a dangerous superweapon. Stopped the threat of an invasion from another plane. Fought against a host of nigh unstoppable foes. And uncovered evidence of a vast conspiracy. But now, your biggest challenge lies ahead of you. In Starfinder's first adventures for higher-level characters, the remnants of an ancient warmongering civilization threaten the Pact Worlds, and only you can stop them. Will you rise to the challenge? Or will the devastation arc destroy everything you hold dear?
Hello, and welcome back to episode 3 of Paizo Live. I'm your host, Aaron Shanks, and we had a great time talking Starfinder in the last segment, but now we're going to turn the page and talk about organized play and upcoming PaizoCon. Here to talk about both of them is organized play manager Tonya Woldridge. Hello, Tonya.
Hi.
Tonya, why don't you tell folks what it is you do as manager?
So organized play for us is a worldwide campaign, one game, one world, and I get to oversee all of those pieces, coordinating the broad strokes of the program. We've got a great team that works on this. So Alex Spidell, the organized play associate, our organized play managing developer, Linda Zayas Palmer, and our developers, Thurston Hillman, Jenny Jarzabski, and Mike Kimmel. So kind of just spearheading that team and moving things forward for us.
That's a substantial team.
It is. Usually I also get to travel to conventions, though that's a little bit different. Right now we're in the digital environment, and I work with our team of volunteers, the 1,000-ish people running games and coordinating worldwide. So yeah.
Well, welcome. It's great to have you here. It's been great to have your subordinates on previous episodes because they're so articulate and so interesting. But it's nice to have you here tonight too. Let's talk about this month's Pathfinder Society scenarios first. what we know already is that scenario 2-17 is called Lost Maid of, oh goodness, Anactoria. Is how I pronounce it. And it's a Pathfinder scenario designed for levels 3 through 6, in which the grim, when a grim local celebrity of the small village of Anactoria goes missing, the townsfolk reach out to the Pathfinder Society for assistance. And adventure ensues. The second is called Starfinder Society Scenario 2-18, The Fanciful March of Urwal. And we know that with one of its masked leaders missing, the Pathfinder Society continues a desperate search of the forests in northern, help me, Tonya, Iobaria?
Yep.
Iobaria, thank you. It's Pathfinder Live is also a vocabulary lesson. Urwal, leader of the Verdant Wheel faction, approaches a group of Pathfinders to assist him in traveling through the forest at the behest of some unknown force that beckons to him through dreams and visions. That one's also levels 3 through 6. So why don't we talk a little bit about both of these before turning the page to Starfinder Society? I will say that there's a blog summarizing both of these that was recently posted on Paizo.com, so viewers can go read about it there. Tonya, do you have any further insights about what you think is fun about these, or are they good for entry-level Pathfinders? Are they is one better than than the other? What do people have to look forward to? For experienced players, what is it that might appeal to them? For someone who, I'm asking all my questions at once, for someone who has never played Starfinder Society and just wants to play them as a standalone adventure, with these work? Those are some of the topics I'd love to explore with you.
They would, because they're for higher than first level. They are available for new players in that we have pre-generated characters at 3rd level and at 5th level that if someone wants to get involved, they can just show up and grab a pre-generated character. They still get credit for their own characters, so they don't lose that game. It just transfers over. Both of these are written by ex-volunteers that have now gone into the freelance realm. 2 venture captains. I love the art on the Urwal one. I mean, jackpot. Who can't? You just want to pinch those little blushy cheeks and say how cute he is. It is part of the meta plot. So if you haven't delved into the story of Corruption's Reach and where the missing Decemvirate leader came from, you may want to pick up a couple of more before you go in there, because that is kind of our overarching story in the Pathfinder Society, and it does contribute. The Lost Maid, I mean, who doesn't love celebrities and or corpses? And you get both. So along with gothic horror, because, you know, Ustala, the land of all things dark and scary. So it won't be just selfies and autographs. There's going to be a little bit more to it in there. But you're also, you know, kind of hedging on that Whispering Tyrant area. So it is kind of a dark, deep and dark adventure while still having some comedic moments to it. I mean, this one, I think, epitomizes Thurston as the Pathfinder Society lead developer, in that it's got the dark and the quirky right there, side by side. Same with Urwal. You can really see his touch in them.
That's great. They sound like they'd be really fun to sink your teeth into. Let's talk about this month's Starfinder Society scenarios. We've got 3-21 Frozen Ambitions Renewal's Blight, which is a scenario designed for 3rd to 6th level. And as the Starfinder Society investigates mercenary laboratories producing an unstable combat-enhancing drug, the latest lead takes an unexpected team to the arboreal Goran homeworld, Goris Prime. And the Starfinder agents must discover who is funding these dangerous experiments while investigating a growing blight in the forested planet, and determine if these events are connected. And next is 3-22, The Vast Experiment, Dancing at the Edge, which is for levels 7 through 10. And it's the exciting conclusion of the Vast Experiment series. The PCs travel to a Pact Worlds sponsored colony in the Vast to investigate the source of a series of deactivated drift beacons. What they discover in the corner of this corner of remote space threatens to change the status quo within the Pact Worlds and rock the very foundations of the society. So that sounds like a big deal. What insights can you add, Tonya?
Well, we were just talking about the meta plot in Pathfinder Society, that overarching kind of storyline. This year for Starfinder Society, we took a different approach. And instead of doing one big arc, we did 3 smaller ones. And these are actually wrapping up those arcs. So the Frozen Ambitions arc started in 303, went through scenario 309, 315. The beauty is you don't have to play them in order. They are all part of a bigger storyline, but you can play them out of order. So if this is the first time you've heard of one of them, hey, start with this, give it a try, and then go backwards. Same with the Vast Experiment. It is set for level 7 to 10, so it is up there, experienced agents style. But again, there's other scenarios you can pick up, and it'll be waiting for you when you're ready. It's also done by Miko Kaleo, which is one of our stalwart authors, veteran authors. He's done our interactive and a lot of pieces, so there's sure to be some surprises in store there. Isis, our other author, is one of our newer authors, just getting a start out. So you get a little bit of a spread there.
Excellent. And those 3 different meta plots in Starfinder Society, I mean, you can have 3 different characters and sort of explore them all eventually, right?
Yep, exactly, because they're going to be there. The beauty with the society scenarios is they stick around forever. So even if we've moved on in our storylines, they're still available to play.
And that's true of previous seasons as well?
It is. And you can also take out and put them in your home game really easy just by subbing in any other intergalactic organization for the Starfinder Society.
That's great. Okay, I'm as I've said previously on the show, I'm sort of a new baby Starfinder GM, and I'm having a great time with it. So, and my players are as well. They're just really enjoying getting to know Starfinder in both the game and the lore and the setting. So, thank you very much. Now let's segue a bit to the overlap between future scenarios and PaizoCon. I think you wanted to talk about what's going to come out at the end of May in terms of scenarios for PaizoCon.
I did. I wanted to give a little bit of a preview because these are currently listed for play on our Warhorn. And we want to encourage people to come in and try them out at PaizoCon at the end of May. So I'll give the call out. PaizoCon's dates, May 28th to 31st. We are still taking registrations. It is on warhorn.net. And you can find out more information on PaizoCon on our website, paizo.com. So 2 different entries to find information. But we've got our 2 standard Pathfinder scenarios that are coming out there. And then we've got a new-ish kind of take on Starfinder Society. So for the Pathfinder ones, we've got 2-19, Enter the Pallid Peak by Jacob Michaels. And this is a level 1-4 scenario. It's great for new players to get involved with that have never been part of society, and it will allow them to come in. It harkens back to other delves we've done into the Dwarven Ruins back in the Year of the Sky Key under First Edition Pathfinder. So there's some tie-ins to why the society's still delving in Dwarven Ruins and want to be part of. And so that one is a really good starter. It kind of sits outside of any of the meta plot stories and is a one-off adventure. The other one we have is starting the wrap-up of our meta plot, The Year of Corruption's Reach, and it is Society Adventure 2-20, Breaking the Storm, Bastion in Embers. And it is going back into Iobaria and helping the Farhaven clan with the Godcaller Nelka and his Eidolon Dolek Darkfur, the feathered bear that everyone likes to see and who's featured heavily in the season artwork. And you need to give them a hand so that they can give you a hand in helping with this Decemvirate leader. So You know, you've got a couple more months if you want to wrap up the storyline there, but we will have those two available at PaizoCon. For Starfinder Society, though, this is the launch of our year 4, and we're taking a little bit different approach on it. We've had introduction scenarios before. The most visible is 101, The Commencement by Eleanor Farron, that introduces society agents. But this time we're making it a 3-part arc. So the introduction 1, the first test, introduces players to the society. If you've never heard what the Starfinder Society is, this is the perfect adventure for you, because it'll tell you some of the goals, why it exists, where it comes from. The second one is for the factions, and it introduces the factions that play a big part in the society and why you'd want to be involved with them and how you support them and what each of their aims are. And then we will have a third one that introduces the meta plot for the year, and that is the year of the Data Scourge. So the first 2 are levels 1 to 2. The third one is level 1 to 4. Great way for you to get involved. We've got volunteers on standby to help make characters or help explain how the guidelines of society play into getting started. And so, you know, it's just a really good way to come in and start your Starfinder Society adventure.
That's great. Yeah, you know, that's a lot of content that's going to be debuting at PaizoCon. It's going to be online. It's going to be virtual, and there's a lot of content, great entry level content, and there are people, as you say, standing by to help you create characters and get involved if you've never. There's 2 hurdles there, right? There's never having played in society, and then there's maybe you've never played online. And tell me about your volunteers. Are they able to handle both of those? I think they are, but what can you share?
Absolutely, they are. We have a wonderful team that is on our Discord, which is at paizo.events. And there's channels in there for help on characters. There's channels for help on VTTs and virtual tabletops. They will help you find a game in the Warhorn catalog that suits your type of play. There are games being played by Discord, which is more slides and chat. There are play by post, which is all text-based. So if you think that VTTs are a little out of your realm of comfort, but you still want to play, we've got a game for you.
That's excellent. Why don't we stay on that topic right now? I wanna go and talk a little bit about the Twitch schedule that everybody just saw in front of them in a moment. But I think you said there was a particular game that you wanted to make sure people didn't miss. Was that the Card Society game?
It is Sunday afternoon. We are having a all-out extravaganza for the Pathfinder Adventure Card Society. It is an interactive event, which means every table that plays will influence every other table that's playing. So the more tables that play, the bigger and better the event becomes. It's written by Paizo's own Ron Lundeen. So we can guarantee shenanigans. It's developed by Linda Zayas Palmer. So it is calling back to the many years of Pathfinder Adventure Card Society and Adventure Card Guild. And it will be Sunday 1 to 6. So if you've ever wanted to play the card game, thought about playing the card game, we have ways to do it digitally via tabletop simulator or Excel spreadsheets, or just slides and web cameras. And again, if you come to paizo.events, the Discord, and get yourself signed up there, we can help walk you through being involved in this, what I think is going to be pretty epic event. I know I'm like blocking out time to play as long as no fires get in my way, because I really want to see what it unfolds like. And this will be the world premiere.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Let's see. Our viewers did get to see a little bit about what's going to be going on simultaneously on our official Paizo Twitch channel. We'll have a series of seminars starting Friday at 11 a.m. with a pregame show for an hour from No Direction. No Direction is going to be our hosts for PaizoCon, making sure that people get introduced and connecting, doing after seminar interviews with individuals from the seminars you've just seen. So they'll be integrated into PaizoCon Online. Starts on Friday and runs. The shows run through Sunday. You'll want to, I would say the highlights are that there's going to be an opening ceremony keynote from Eric Mona at 12 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 p.m. UTC. And so he'll give a summary of a lot of the biggest announcements of the show then. And then we'll launch into individual seminars. There's going to be Starfinder specific seminars with exploring the Galaxy Exploration Manual. We'll get more into Fists of the Ruby Phoenix, and then there's general seminars like people are used to, where it's the secrets of Galarian, the secrets of the Pact Worlds, things that are a little more open-ended, and those are the sorts of seminars people are used to seeing at the physical PaizoCon convention for many years. So there's going to be Paizo staff in these seminars. It's going to be Paizo Live is just a small sample of what you'll see at PaizoCon, essentially, and it'll go on for 3 days. And there's also some of our streaming partners are doing shows concurrent over the weekend, especially on Monday. That's a nice open space for some of the streaming content you'll see. And I do want to point out that the schedule also has a great Paizo produced 2 live plays, one Friday night, one Saturday night, one at 6. They both start at 6 p.m. And those will be two new one-shots. That's all I'm going to say for now. The schedule that's on PaizoCon on the website is a preliminary schedule to let you know what's coming up, but there'll be a more detailed update soon with even more specifics. So that's my pitch for the Twitch schedule for PaizoCon. Is there anything you wanted to add, Tonya, to the opportunities people have, or are you ready to talk about your spoiler?
No, actually, I would say that we've got some interviews following some of the panels. All the other panel participants are actually moving over into the Discord so that they can talk to people that way. So there will be multiple ways to interact. We've got staff that will be in the Discord from 10 to 6 every day.
Yes.
To chat and just, sit back, talk. So if you've ever had those questions that you just need to know the answer to, come on and join us there. Plus the Discord will have giveaways. It will have a few other panels. We've got some partnerships with Freelance Forge, Find the Path. So they'll be doing panels that aren't Twitch streamed, but are Discord streamed.
Right.
We've got over 1,000 games. And I think it will be a lot of fun. We did this last year on a short notice, and it came together, and it isn't a physical con, but it really replicates that feeling of a physical con as close as we can in a digital environment.
Yeah, I feel like this is now. Last year, it happened the weekend after Memorial Day. Yep. We needed a little more time to fall back and regroup. And it happened over the course of a few more days, weekdays. This year, we're definitely sticking to the traditional PaizoCon schedule, which starts on Friday and goes through Monday of Memorial Day weekend. So I think everyone will recognize that schedule. And it's gonna involve online play, Discord, Warhorn, and Twitch in very similar ways to last year. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So. We've got
great.
Lots of space. So, come on out, join us. The beautiful thing of a digital environment is we've got tables, and we can try and find more GMs and add more tables. So the more the merrier. And I'd love to see you all there.
Indeed. I think what we learned was we were able to provide a PaizoCon experience to people all over the globe. And my understanding is there are games running 24/7 over the weekend. Bless your team. So really, it's exciting. It's a way to make PaizoCon more accessible than it ever was before. And we're really excited about that, and less scared because we've done it once.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's a real feather in the cap for the org play team and the Paizo staff. So I'm here toot everyone's horn and shine the spotlight on the great work of my coworkers, and I'm happy to do that. I think it's going to be great fun, very accessible, and I really am impressed with just how accessible the staff is going to be over the weekend too via Discord. I think that's going to be as close as we can get to replicating a physical experience. And yeah, I should wrap it up. I could talk for a long time. Let's get on to your Paizo spoiler. Tonya, first, how can they find you on Twitter?
I am PFSOPM.
Great. And what's your Paizo Live spoiler tonight?
I'm actually going to spoil Forward, and the 2 live streams that Aaron referenced, the one on Friday night and Saturday night. The Friday night one was written by Luis Loza, and the Saturday night one was written by James Jacobs. So we've got 2 stellar authors that are creating content for those events, and I will leave it to them to maybe pay it forward even more.
Indeed, we're passing the baton on our spoilers tonight because, surprise, surprise, they're 2 of our next guests.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for joining me tonight, Tonya. It's been great to just talk with you one-on-one. And we're going to take a short, more or less 5-minute break once again and come back with the Pathfinder team. We'll see you soon.
This is the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Beginner Box, and we want to show you what's inside. On the front is an amazing illustration by artist Wayne Reynolds, and on the back is everything showcasing what's in the box and what to expect. To start, we have an instructional guide that guides you through the contents of the Beginner Box. This explains what Pathfinder is, gives you directions on how to play the solo adventure, and how to play with your friends. Then we have 4 pre-generated characters, one of Valorous the Fighter, Ezran the Wizard, Kyra the Cleric, and Mauricio the Rogue. Each of these pre-generated character sheets aims to help new players get into the game faster. You'll find helpful information on the side regarding the game, all the stats filled out for you, rules to help you play your chosen character, along with some backstory of the Pathfinder iconic you chose. You'll also notice that the character sheets have color-coded dice on the side. And in the box, you'll get 1 set of these, matching the colors to help affiliate newcomers to the different types of dice needed to play the game. To further help players are these reference cards. These have information explaining what actions you can take during your turn, what critical hits mean or critical misses, and more information to help you stay in the game and not in the books. And here is the Hero's Handbook. This handbook starts with a solo adventure, continues on with a synopsis of the game rules, and guidelines to create your own hero. The available ancestries you have available to you are the Dwarf, Elf, and Human. You can then customize to become a cleric, fighter, rogue, or wizard. One of the important things to take away from the materials in this box is that the rules presented are the same as the Pathfinder 2nd Edition core rulebook. We did not modify the rules, only elaborated on them in the beginner box. If you and your friends decided to make their own characters instead, inside are 6 blank character sheets. Similar to the pre-gen character sheets, these also have helpful information about the game on the side and plenty of space to create your own hero. Now, as for the player telling the story, we have the Game Master Guide. This has everything you need to run a Pathfinder 2nd Edition adventure. As a full adventure you can run right away, teaching the Game Master and players the rules of the game every step of the way, along with materials to run your own campaigns with a horde of monsters to battle against. To help run the included adventure, you'll find a double-sided flip mat inside the box. This is a 24 by 30 inch playmat, coated in a substance that allows you to mark and draw various things with a dry erase marker should you need them. To help populate your table, the box contains 3 pawn sheets representing the monsters in the Game Mastery Guide, player tokens, NPCs, and action tokens, which can be used with the player reference cards to help keep track of how many actions you have left during your turn. Along with the pawn sheets, you also get these bases for you to use to help them stand up at your table. And finally is a presentation of the Pathfinder Society, where either you're playing at home, online, conventions, or your favorite local hobby store. You can join thousands of Pathfinders today and start playing at paizo.com/organized play. On the back is an advisory for those wishing to continue the adventure, mentioning the troubles in Otari adventure that continues the story of the beginner box, along with options to continue building and expanding your stories. And that's everything in the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Beginner Box. You can start your adventure now by ordering yours at paizo.com or by visiting your friendly local game store to begin your journeys. Stay safe and farewell, and we hope to hear about your adventures soon.
Absalom, the city at the center of the world, heart of the Isle of Kortos. Since the living god Erodin founded it nearly 5,000 years ago, people have proudly called this metropolis the crown jewel of the inner sea. Now, it is the year of the Radiant Festival, a once-in-a-lifetime celebration that has drawn visitors to Absalom from around the globe. But not all who wander the boardwalks and alleyways of Absalom have good intentions. Craven crooks, shady charlatans, and malevolent murderers have set their sights on a distracted populace. Under cover of the chaotic festivities, a diabolical plot unfolds. Who can protect the innocent citizens of Absalom? Who will answer the call to save this ancient city from the villains who aim to overtake it? To guard Absalom from certain danger, a band of heroes must uncover the city's deepest secrets, scour its streets for clues, and take down its most dangerous criminal masterminds. For the safety of the many, a few will risk it all. The Agents of Edgewatch.
Hello and welcome back to Paizo Live, where we talk about all things Pathfinder and Starfinder. I'm your host, Aaron Shanks, Paizo's Marketing and Media Manager. In the last two segments, we've had a great conversation about Starfinder and then Paizo organized play and upcoming PaizoCon at the end of May. And now we're going to switch gears and talk about the Pathfinder role-playing game. My guests today are Pathfinder Senior Editor, Kool. Avi, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hello, welcome. You are the Senior Editor for the Pathfinder line. Do you want to tell us about that job description?
Yeah, my dog is barking in the background.
Excellent.
So, what I do as Pathfinder Senior Editor is I am responsible for managing the editing of all Pathfinder products, kind of keeping an eye on everything that goes on in the world of Pathfinder, assigning leads to various projects, and just having like an in-depth knowledge of Pathfinder style, Pathfinder continuity, and Pathfinder rules. So that is kind of my responsibility, is to have my eye on all things Pathfinder.
Excellent. I'll have you on every month. That's it. In fact, this episode is really great because I think you'll have a lot to add to everything we have to talk about today. So thank you for joining us. Our next guest is Pathfinder developer Luis Loza. Luis, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Aaron. I'm glad to be back.
Yes, thanks for coming back.
Yes.
In fact, I've got you scheduled to come back frequently because you're one of the power team that is the Lost Omens line developing team. So so we have you back to talk about all things Lost Omens, but of course you touch more than just that. But first of all, why don't you just tell us what a developer does, Pathfinder developer does at Paizo, just for people who are unfamiliar.
Developer, the biggest job is they take all the work from a freelancer, give it editing passes, make sure it lines up with all the existing canon history, and line it up with the rules, tweak it here and there for the needs of the product. They're really the shepherds and the directors of a given product. So depending if we're running adventures or a Lost Omens book or something else, we kind of have that main vision of the book in mind, kind of guide it all the way through the process from start to finish to get it out to people.
Great. And we talked earlier to Jason Tondro. He's a Starfinder developer. He says he's mostly focused on adventures, and you're mostly focused on the Pathfinder Lost Omens hardcovers books for the most part, correct?
Yeah, correct. We're in charge of helping flesh out the setting, the Lost Omens setting, and getting people information about Golarion and how they can better fit Golarion into their worlds and their characters into Golarion and into their adventures.
Indeed. And Eleanor Farron is your partner in crime in
Absolutely.
Yes. Great. And we'll have her on next. We won't have a Paizo live episode in May because we'll be enjoying PaizoCon, focusing on PaizoCon, but then we'll be back in late June and have Eleanor on then. All right. Thank you for joining us. I'll introduce my third guest, and that is Pathfinder Creative Director James Jacobs. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us.
I guess I'll take Creative Jacobs too.
Yeah,
although,
Creative Jacobs. I mean, that's good.
There's a lot of creatives in the Jacobs family.
What does the creative director do? What's your particular flavor of that title?
It's kind of a little bit of everything. I help guide what direction all of the Pathfinder content goes, like from the rule books to the adventures to the Lost Omens guide to everything, and kind of just try not to get in everybody's way, I guess, is part of what I do. But it's kind of a strange job because you never really know what exactly you'll be doing next. Like whether it's now you're helping to develop an adventure path or writing sidebars for some book, or who knows. It's pretty fun. It's not boring,
great.
That's for sure.
Right. No, and talk about that balance of job descriptions. I've noticed that Luis and Eleanor have a lot of autonomy, at least what I can tell. You actually are able to give them the ball and let see where they take it. So with the Lost Omens line, I know you kind of established the setting, but it's been amazing to see how they develop it, just as from an outside perspective. So I see what you mean. Those are our three guests today. Thanks everyone for joining me. The next thing I want to do is take a look at the Ruby Phoenix Adventure Path, focus in on that, and then talk to Luis Loza because he's the author of the first volume.
Who, me? Wow.
The time has come, and what we know already is that the time has come for the Ruby Phoenix tournament. The sorcerer Hojin has invited only the strongest martial artists, adventurers, and fortune seekers to her world-famous fighting competition. The motley roster of contenders must compete for this decade's champion title and the choice of one of the Ruby Phoenix's grand treasures. We have, and here is an image of Volume 1, written by Luis Loza, Volume 2 by David N. Ross, and there is a Volume 3, but the final art isn't available yet, and I thought these two were just gorgeous side by side. So it's going to be a 3-volume adventure path, starting at 11th level, very high level, and going to 20th. But that's the gorgeousness of the final covers so far. Let's talk about the Ruby Phoenix Adventure Path a little bit as an arc. Certainly, we had Patrick on last episode, who is the developer for the 3-arc Adventure Path, and he talked about that arc, and he talked about since that time we've launched or released the free PDF player's guide for the Adventure Path, which is spoiler-free content for everybody to take a look at, get to know the Adventure Path, and before you actually sink your teeth into the GM sinks their teeth into the Game Mastery Guide, or pardon me, for Volume 1. Just asking the three of you about that product, the player's guide. Do you have any input into that, or what what does a player's guide do for every adventure path that perhaps people should note?
James, I feel like you've been doing player's guide for a while, so you want to tell people what those are all
Sure.
about?
The main thing that a player's guide is supposed to do is to get the players interested in the adventure path in the first place. There's a lot of like, we don't want to spoil anything for the GM and let the players find, the secrets of the adventure, organically while they play. But unless they know exactly what they're getting into, they're not going to be as excited to get into it. So a player's guide is really sort of, here's what's kind of things you're going to be looking forward to in the adventure, and more importantly, what kind of characters should you make that will be really fun and fit into the storyline really well. And it's something, they're always free. They're PDFs that you can just download and all of your players, and it's a great way to kind of on session 0 of your campaign to get people together and like look through and decide what characters you're going to make.
Excellent, thank you, James. Avi, did you touch this the player's guide? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, cut you off. I did not go through the whole thing, editing it myself, but I have looked at it and enjoyed it immensely because it has all the useful information, and then also has some just really, really bonkers stuff that Luis is responsible for. So I think he should talk about.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good segue. We'll just go right into Luis and talk about Volume 1.
What Avi's referring to there is the last section of the player's guide. There's a little like team builder. When I was originally writing my adventure, I was asked by Patrick to provide a tool for GMs that they can use to kind of generate an idea for a team and a rival team that your players would face kind of on the fly. So I put together a bunch of tables that tell you, where the team is from, their abilities, their weaknesses, some of their quirks, stuff like that. That didn't make the cut into the adventure itself, but Patrick, being ever so resourceful, realized that probably is a good way to maybe inspire ideas for GMs for other teams, or for players to give them ideas for their teams when they decide to join up for the adventure pass. So we put that into the player's guide, and I think that alongside the backgrounds kind of give people a feel for the tone of the adventure path, where it's not necessarily like a always 100% super serious thing. This adventure path was definitely inspired by martial arts movies, anime, story arcs, video games, things like that have lots of kind of really long, expansive fighting tournament arcs like this. And we wanted to kind of put forth that same feel, that same idea that like it's obviously a big important event, but also it's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of off the wall. It'd be maybe a bit zany. So why not start by throwing that into the player's guide as well?
Excellent. And I'm sure that content makes its way into a lot of the open gaming license resources that are online as well, a lot of that player's guide information. So you can find it not only as a free downloadable PDF on Paizo.com without even needing to make an account. And you can also, that information gets integrated into a lot of the open gaming license resource sites, so that you can use that no matter, even if you're homebrewing something, you can use a lot of these tools in your own adventures. Let me just circle back and introduce the Volume 1, Despair on Danger Island, and what we know about it so far. Just bringing people up to speed based on what's on the product page. Only the strongest will survive. The contenders arrive on the uninhabited island of Bonmu in Minata to compete in the preliminary qualifier for the Ruby Phoenix tournament. On this jungle island, 32 teams of fighters must complete challenges, withstand the elements, and face off against one another in deadly combat to win entry to the tournament proper. That is what we know about Volume 1.
For now.
For now. We're about to change all that.
Yes.
So, I mean, first off, 32 teams sounds like an overwhelming job for a GM to manage. How did you tackle that?
Oh boy, let me tell you, it's also an overwhelming job for a writer to manage. Well, the idea being that there's 32 teams, I went in assuming that you wouldn't face all 31 other teams at once. It is a tournament, and the way that it breaks down, you kind of go around this island, the titular Danger Island, and encounter other teams and get a chance to face them. But you don't need to face 31 other teams to make it to the next round. You just need to get enough wins in there that you basically get enough points to qualify into the tournament itself. So you don't have to deal with all of those teams, and the entire adventure is an enormous sandbox. I think the most free-form sandbox I've ever written for an adventure. If you've ever played something like Kingmaker, where you're in a sandbox, you kind of start at a certain point and can branch out from there. The moment we throw you on Danger Island, once you're ready to go, you can go to anywhere on the island immediately. There's even a transport system built into the buildings of the island, so you can kind of teleport to any of the main key regions of the island and get to anywhere you want at any point, which means that you can face any team and end up at any place at any time. But that also meant that I had to write in a bunch of different teams, a bunch of different possible encounters that you may never see, depending on where you end up going and what you decide to do as players.
That sounds like a lot of the video games I've played. Like, it has that sort of feel to it in a really good tabletop way.
Yeah, it's an open world as much as one can be for an RPG.
And I think I saw some hex maps. Am I recalling that correctly?
Yes, absolutely. And I tried to make sure that every hex had at least something going on in it, so there's a reason to go anywhere you want on the island, which I'm sure was just a nightmare for Avi to edit when it came time.
I think players might spend a lot of time on this island if they want to. If there's something to explore with every hex, I can imagine groups that I play with wanting to leave no stone unturned. So maybe GMs might plan for highly variable adventure length with this first volume, by the sounds of it, depending on their players.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is kind of a time limit built in. You are thrown onto Danger Island, and you have to qualify within 3 days. And anyone that doesn't make it after this 3 days is out, goes home. So you probably, as much as you would like, don't have enough time to explore everything on the island. But I think it would lead to a great situation after the adventure pass has been out for a while, where players can kind of meet with other groups and say, where did you go on the island? Oh, we went here, we went there, and we saw these people. Oh, we didn't do that, but we went over there. And it leads to a lot of really interesting, varying experiences. Or if you're a GM, you can just kind of pluck that island and steal that and use that however you like for your home games. If you don't want to run the entire AP, it's still, I think, a really fun island to go around and explore and let players kind of run around freely.
That's great. It might even lend itself to a little replayability.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, here we're seeing some art from the cover, just zoomed in on this amazing cover art for Volume 1 of Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. It's our iconic characters in combat against what kind of monsters might we be seeing here?
What you're seeing here are some terracotta warriors that, in particular, later in the adventure, they might be a whole troop of them that you have to deal with, because this was being written around the same time as Bestiary 3, and I had the luxury of being able to peek at those rules and sneak them in here. So you get to play around with the new rules that just came out last month for the new AP.
Troops, yes. I think I'll just switch gears for a moment and check in with James about whether or not there was any 30,000-foot guidance that you gave in the creation of this AP or this volume that might. How did you guide the team with this particular adventure? What were your words of wisdom?
Well, I don't know if they were necessarily words of wisdom, but it's the first time we've done an adventure path where you start not at first level, and that was a significant challenge on how to plot it out and prepare everything. There's sort of this implication that if you play Abomination Vaults, that's kind of like you're now high enough level to go do Ruby Phoenix, but there's no real implicit ties between the two adventure paths. But I wanted to make sure that not only does it hit the ground running and you're doing stuff that is just really kind of, you're not going to be doing this if you're first level, even though it's the start of an adventure path. But also, I wanted to make sure that it felt over the top. It felt just outlandish in how just the the types of things that you encounter in this adventure path, that the sort of story beats, the plot twists, and all of that stuff. I really knew Patrick, who was going in and developing the outline and everything, was more than up to the job. But I just really made sure that he knew that that do whatever you want, because this one's well, I don't want to spoil. We're not to the spoiler element yet, and it's not really my adventure path to spoil. But there's a particular character in there that I'm really, really happy is going to be on the main screen for a certain part of the thing. And if people look really closely at the background, there might be a hint as to what I'm talking about.
Excellent. Spoilers within the art. It sounds like it's definitely high fantasy, solidly high fantasy. This adventure path. Great. Avi, let's check in with you. What did you love about Volume 1 that is top of mind? Or were there any mechanics that you think should be pointed out?
Yeah, so that Volume 1 is the first sandbox adventure I've ever edited, because obviously Paizo hasn't published anything like that since Kingmaker. And it was at first kind of overwhelming, because there's a lot of cross-referencing and things like that you need to do when you've got a ridiculous map like the beautiful map that Luis made of this island. And if it had been, Luis is such a good writer, and he made it easy, because everything is, it makes sense, everything is fun and engaging. And the thing that really struck me with it is how good-natured it is as well. Like, it's a fighting tournament, but it doesn't feel like there's not a lot of hostility in it. The stakes are high because it's a matter of, you want to win the prize. The Haojin tournament, the way it works is she every year at the end of the tournament grants the winner a artifact from her vault. And her vault is this whole demi-plane that she's created called the Haojin Tapestry, which is slowly well, I won't spoil the plot of that because it's all in Pathfinder Society. But that's the main motivation of being in this tournament. It's prestige, and it's to get some random, cool, undetermined item from Haojin. And you would think that, going into an adventure, you would need some overarching threat that's kind of the instigating factor, and that's not true at all. There are overarching threats that you'll discover as you go on, but it really just starts out with the joy of the whole fighting tournament premise. And that is what makes it such a fun adventure. It fully leans into the fact that you're starting at 11th level, and so you can do all kinds of things, and your opponents can do all kinds of things as well. I think every single table will have a complete unique playthrough of this adventure. No two tables will have even remotely the same playthrough. So
That's
all
so
of those
exciting.
things that were so exciting to read about as I was working on this.
That's terrific. Anecdotally, I got an education from one of our staff members about lethality in Pathfinder games in general. I really feel like players and GMs are going to be able to make this adventure their own in terms of how they want to play the deadly aspect of it. If you have a lawful good champion and you want to be doing or a monk and you want to be doing non-lethal damage, that's how you see it would work in a fighting tournament with your alignment, you can do that.
Yes.
Acknowledging that your opponents will make different choices. Your opponents may not be pulling punches, but I think a GM can still dial that in or dial that back so that you can have the sort of experience you want out of a fighting tournament. I think that was really great.
I added some tools and items that you get right out of the gate that facilitate that. So if you want to be doing non-lethal attacks, you won't be penalized as you would normally with that, with the stuff that's been built in there. So you can play it as you like if you prefer to just be there for the sport of it rather than out to kill and become the one true warrior or whatever.
That's great. Final thoughts on this particular adventure or adventure path before we move on to the next subject?
I think it's going to be a great time. Go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And there will be more reveals about this at PaizoCon at the end of May. So we've only, we're not done talking about it yet. But let's take a look at the Pathfinder standalone adventure Malevolence and its accompanying flip mat. What we know so far is, here's a little mystery story for you. The house has stood abandoned on its lonely hilltop, brooding quietly over the ruins of a once thriving town for decades. No one has lived within its walls since the night a terrific storm flooded the coastal town below, and since a tragedy struck down the noble family that once dwelt within it. But now the mansion has attracted the attention of a curious group of adventurers. What is the truth behind the tragic past that empowers the evil that grips the mansion today? And what may happen? What might happen to the world of Golarion if the sinister influences that grow within these haunted walls are allowed to build beyond the breaking point? It's a horror. Malevolence is a horror-themed adventure for third-level characters, written by James Jacobs, and he is with us here and now, of course, to talk about it. I really wanted to. I just noticed while reading this description that the stakes are as high with this adventure as with any adventure path. I mean, in terms of possible world-changing evil stakes, you don't pull punches with this adventure. It's just as intense as an adventure path might be. Does that sound about right, James?
Yeah, it's I hope so. If one of the things that I wanted to challenge myself with this adventure is to do an adventure that was big and had important stakes, both for low-level characters. And if your characters go through this adventure and endure what kind of monsters and horrors and just grisliness awaits you inside this haunted house, and you win, that's good. But if you don't win, there's a house right there, Zarwin Manor. If you don't win, something will happen that will be as impactful to the region and the Inner Sea region as, if you fail on an adventure path itself. There's actually, I've been pretty, clutchy about one piece of art that people have been trying to show off. It's like, no, you can't show that off. You can't show that off. And it pretty much shows what happens if you screw up. So
yeah,
don't mess up in this adventure.
Yeah, the stakes are high, which is great. Yeah, there's that image. This is a zoomed in image of the mansion showing a lonely light in the window there. But in fact, it's even bigger in the adventure with some more moodiness to it. So the art in this adventure is terrific. I wanted to just finish we can go back and talk about the plot to some extent. It's horror themed, and that feels like kind of your wheelhouse, James. Like you do a lot of. I mean, you wrote, I want to say, the first volume of Abomination Vaults, which is also pretty darn scary. Is this a sweet spot for you? Do you, I think maybe sometimes there's some outer worlds or outer realms influences to what you do sometimes, but not always. What were your inspirations for this adventure? I think that's what I'm getting at.
It pretty much all goes back to my grandmother, going up to visit her on the farm, and she'd do something like, "Oh, hey James, here, check this book out." She'd hand me Cujo or Pet Cemetery, and a few years later, it's like, "Oh, check this author out. He's even better than Stephen King," and it's Clive Barker. And so I'm reading Stephen King and Clive Barker at the urgings of my grandmother when I'm like 10, 11 years old. So that definitely, primed the pump for me to be a horror fan for the rest of my life. And even, just growing up with my dad and I would stay up every Saturday night to watch, creature features. And their Godzilla up there was the first movie that I watched with my dad at like midnight. Is staying up till late at night and watching a horror movie was a pretty big deal. So yeah, horror has been pretty much, it's definitely, I would say, in my wheelhouse. It's something that pretty much everything that I write will have elements of it in there, but it's also, horror is so entwined with comedy and as well. And I really like sort of this juxtaposition of like something really awful happening, but something really kind of whimsical and funny happening at the same point. And it's I enjoy the challenge of kind of mixing that up. And Abomination Vaults has some pretty wacky characters in there. I don't think there's much actually wacky going on in Malevolence. Malevolence is pretty grim and spooky kind of all the way through.
What's the backstory for the origin of the adventure? I understand that you got it start sort of in-house.
Yeah, I was running a adventure, kind of a office game for a bunch of folks at the office. And I do that sort of as a sandbox where I build up a map. In this case, is a town I made up called Crooked Cove or Crook Cove. And I drop the map down and say, okay, where do you want to go? What do you want to do next? And one of the player characters had a link. It was Liz Liddell. Her link was that she had a deed to this creepy old manor up on the hill. So they just said, let's go up and check it out. And I had in my head this, like, I wanted this to be sort of, a haunted house type thing and a basic idea of what's going on in there. And we would game for about 4 hours every Thursday after work. And I just would build enough of the house to keep the adventure going and then see where they wanted to go next and kind of just keep one session ahead of people. And so a lot of what ended up going into, and then Adam Daigle, who is also a character in there's like, hey, you should write that as an adventure. And so a lot of what is in Malevolence is kind of like play-tested things that I managed to scare Amanda Hammond and Liz Liddell and John Compton. And there was like 7 people at one point in that group. But it was a really fun experience just to like play it first with a bunch of friends and then go back and kind of translate it into what's really, behind the scenes going on. And they still haven't finished that exploration yet. So Adam ended up having to develop the adventure that he's playing in, and I guess that was called an awkward for him. But
wow, that's amazing. Well, you'll be able to make it your own, I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like on one hand, that's a group of people that have very active imaginations, so I'm sure they brought a lot to the to the experience, but also they might be folks that are a little challenging to scare. So if you enchanted them and scared them, then I think the rest of us would better hold on to our seats.
I mean, like working with Ron Lundeen and a couple others who are also in the game, it's like I know who they are. I've been friends with them for years, so I kind of know what scares them. So I cheated a little bit.
So it grew organically. That's really interesting. I wanted to touch base with Avi and get your perspective on developing this, or editing, I should say, this adventure, because there is a mechanic within the adventure that seemed pretty intriguing. Are you able to tell us about that?
So one of the things that I thought stood out about this adventure is the actual haunting of it uses kind of modified hazards, which we're used to being hazards or things that attack you. But this doesn't use it in that way. They're pretty much a atmospheric kind of sense of doom that the GM can either use in the places listed in the adventure or put in different rooms at opportune moments to build tension. And you can, there are a lot of really cool ways that these phantasms can affect the players and build tension, build fear, give you a sense that something is deeply wrong within this mansion as you go. And these phantasms are, of course, a manifestation of the great evil that is fueling everything happening in this mansion. So I'm a horror fan as well. I love horror adventures. And that was really cool to see that it's a combination of scripted and non-scripted and how you can use them and really tailor them, kind of like James was talking about for his playtesting, really tailor them to scare your party. So this is a dark adventure. It's not for the faint of heart, but if that's your thing, I think it'll be really fun.
Excellent. Was it based on the victory point system that was introduced in the Game Mastery Guide at all, or is it its own innovation?
It's not point based. It's really just it's a really pared down hazard mechanic.
Great. All right. Interesting. Well, final thoughts on Malevolence. It comes out the beginning of May. Go ahead, James. Anything?
Yeah. I'm particularly that one of the things I'm really interested in people checking out is how the party interacts with this whole dungeon. It's not just to go room to room to room and kill the monsters. There's it's a haunted house, so sort of semi spoiler. There may or may not be a ghost involved, and anyone who's ever fought a ghost in Pathfinder knows that they're really hard to kill. You defeat them, they just come back and they come back and they come back, and there's always this really obscure thing that you have to do to put the ghost to rest. And a huge part of this adventure is trying to figure out what that is to basically exercise this haunted house. And so I leaned into the research rules that we published in the Game Master Guide, kind of adjusted them a little bit. So as you're exploring this house, you're going to be coming to like finding old journals or weird paintings on the walls, or exploring libraries, and you'll be able to use downtime inside the house to sit down and like research all of these different topics. There's, I think, 7 pages of detailed research rules for player characters on all these different topics you can explore and everything like that. And as a slight spoiler too, if you fall asleep in the house or in the environs, the way that your mind dreams and interacts with the area of the house allows you to sort of use your dreams to research things. So you can, even while you're sleeping, you can still do this research of what's really causing the malevolence inside of this this cheery little vacation rental.
Those are great insights. Thank you, James. Thank you, Avi. And did I overlook anything you have to add, Luis, or should we move on to the MWANGI Expanse? Oh, I think we've lost his audio.
Oh no.
Oops.
Forgot to unmute myself. Sorry.
There you go.
I've been keeping myself away from it so I don't spoil myself when I get to play through it.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so it's like, la, 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 I don't want to know. Yeah, that's a nice problem to have here.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next Lost Omens hardcover coming out. We've talked about it in previous episodes.
Yes.
It's the MWANGI Expanse, and I've got a little bit of a description here. South of a forbidding range of mountain peaks lies a land of boundless resources and untold opportunity. The MWANGI Expanse has been home to an untold diversity of cultures and peoples since time immemorial, hosting powerful, isolated city-states that have often people have paid little attention to their neighbors. Yet the turning tides of fortune have begun to usher in changes that are rippling across the world. And it goes on to talk about specifics about different nations and areas within the MWANGI Expanse, and points out that, of course, it's a realm of magic, monsters, and intrigue, and the home to the world's oldest and first magic school. So that's a little thumbnail version of what we know about it so far. It's, of course, basically the relatively undeveloped southern latitudes of the Lost Omens setting. How would you describe that fantasy setting? Is it mostly jungle? Is it mostly desert? What do you think, Luis?
It's a lot of it is jungle, but there's a fair amount of, I mean, jungles have rivers and lakes and stuff within them, so there's a lot of aquatic environments that come with it, and there's a lot of mountainous regions, so there's a fair amount of different stuff. And then once you look beyond just the natural environments, you start running into ancient ruins that are thousands and thousands of years old, and lively cities and stuff like that. So it's not just an untamed wild, though a lot of it is very dangerous, very not necessarily a place that anyone that lives there would recommend going. Don't go that direction. You're going to get 800 diseases and find 40 different animals that are willing to try to eat you. Yeah, it's a land all on its own, different from anywhere else. I think in both the inner sea and a lot of what you see in fantasy RPGs out there. There's a lot of inspiration drawn from the African folklore of various different nations and things like that. That I think all of our authors brought in a lot of what they know, what they've either from doing research or from their own backgrounds to make a really unique, exciting place to explore that I think even with 312 pages feels like it's only scratching the surface. I think you could run entire lifetimes worth of campaigns in just the MWANGI Expanse alone with what we have here.
Indeed, I've been preparing to market it and taking a look at it, and it's over 300 pages and has incredible diversity in terms of its cultures and its landscapes, and its authors list is extensive. If anyone wants to go to MWANGI Expanse on the product page on Paizo.com and take a look, all the authors are listed there, and it's a big list, a lot of contributors, some folks who have brought it's just a vibrant, amazing world that I can't wait for people to see more of. So that sounds like a good segue into some interior art that we might be able to show off.
Yes.
I've only chosen a little bit because I'm sure we're going to show more at PaizoCon, and there's so much of it.
There's so much. It's all so beautiful. I love it all so much.
Like, I just want a MWANGI Expanse slideshow.
People talk about the Ancestry Guide art, but I think MWANGI blows it out of the water.
Do you know what we're looking at here?
Yes, absolutely. This is the city of Nantambu, which is home to the Magambia Academy. Nantambu is a large city, but it's also known for its canals and canal system that people use to get in and around the city. It is a place where the Magambia Academy helps support the community around it. It's not just a school that's there for the sake of, collecting tuition and kicking people out once that's done. They very much care about the community. They care about helping the city out around them. And it's a very interesting place to live, whether or not you are a member of the Magambia. If you're not an initiate or a student there, you can still have a lot of interesting things to see in Nantambu. And it's within the city and, in the tunnels of the canals and stuff like that. There's plenty of place for adventure just within the city itself.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Just a fanboy moment. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for a computer role-playing game oh, there's a good surprise. Okay.
Oh boy.
Let's just keep going now and talk about what this is. What are people seeing?
Oh boy. All right. So we've talked about 3 different ancestries way back in the World Guide when we were talking about the MWANGI Expanse. We talked about the Konrasu and the Shisk and the Galoma ancestries. And these are things that have never been really brought up before, and that was the kind of first tease. And people have been asking us, what are these ancestries? What do they do? What do they look like? And we've been very coy up until, right now, we'll be happy to share a little bit about Konrasu. This is what we're looking at here. This is a Konrasu who are basically shards of planar essence that have become intelligent planar essence that are given consciousness and create these wooden exoskeletons. They grow these trees and plant matter outside of their core, that little kind of starry black core that you see there. That's the Konrasu, but the rest of the body is built around by a Konrasu, and they use that to interface with the rest of the multiverse. That's how they interact with the world, is by creating these bodies and use that to grow arms and stuff. And you see they have lots of arms, but what happens is over time, as they grow arms and legs and stuff, those will kind of harden because tree trunks are pretty immovable. So they have to grow new arms and new legs all the time to constantly keep up with that. But they're really an interesting ancestry. I'm going to get a bit into mechanics here because I'm sure some people are ready to write this down. But they're an ancestry that gets a boost in Constitution, Wisdom, and a free boost, and they have an ability flaw in Charisma because they're kind of an alien being that doesn't know how to interact with the rest of the universe. But that's where that Charisma flaw comes in. They also have this cool ability because they're plants. They can draw on sunlight and heal themselves, and at first, you can do that once per day. Eventually, you can potentially do that a lot more. You can get a lot of healing for it. And the really cool thing I think about them is when they're building these exoskeletons around them, there's a specific rite that they undergo to kind of determine what their new body is meant to be used for. So some of them use it to kind of establish a connection with the Aeons that they see as their kind of mentors, use that to get extra knowledge. Some of them use it to empower their healing that they get. And one cool rite that you can take, this is one of the heritages you can take, lets you use your exoskeleton as your armor. You don't buy armor, you can't wear armor, but you already have a bonus to your AC and have all the stats built in to your body. You can sleep in it, be just fine with it. You're always with your armor because your exoskeleton is so tough and designed to be defensive.
That's amazing. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this ancestry.
No, not at all.
I want to give us some time for our Paizo spoilers, Paizo Live spoilers, but I also want to check in with James and Avi about the MWANGI Expanse in particular before we shift gears. James, was there any overarching guidance that you gave the team in regards to this product, or was it very much a take the ball and run with it kind of scenario?
It's for when Luis and Eleanor are working on something. I found that the best way to do it is to just, like I said, just let them go and do what they're going to do. It really boils down to it's more than just one person's world. It's more than one person's game, and having multiple people come at these different regions and put their own heart and soul into it is what makes Golarion such a diverse, healthy, interesting place to go. And I was very involved in like helping outline it and providing feedback and all that, but it was more of a like I think of it more as like a collaborative than sort of like do this type thing, and which is fun because I always enjoy seeing something for Golarion that I had never thought of before or didn't even consider, and like the Kava in this one I think is are kind of for me the breakout just star, just because they just look pretty cool. Oh, I don't think we did. Maybe we'll preview a Kava later in PaizoCon or something like that. But yeah,
indeed. Avi, you've been involved in editing this. Do you have any perspectives or things that you're excited to share with us?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about this book, and probably the thing I spent the most time editing and working on, there are all these different cultures and ethnicities and places that really only have a couple sentences, if that, about them in first edition. Like the noun is established, maybe the barest bones definition of what they are, and that's it. And so a lot of the lore in this book, and this book has so much lore because it's, a big book. All of it is totally from scratch in so many different sections that was really kind of brought to life by the freelancers and the developers. But I think the freelancers had to do a really heavy lift on these societies that there was so little about. And what that ended up resulting in was an incredible amount of variety. Each freelancer brought their own really unique vision to each section. And so you've got all of these different cultures, and you've got all these city-states, because most of the settlements and nations in the MWANGI Expanse are city-states, that each one is completely self-contained while still having political connections to the outside world. But with this really unique society, each one is very, very different from the rest. So you'd think they're all in the same region. They must have a lot in common, like what's going to be super different between them. They are all completely different, all completely unique, and all really, really awesome places to set an adventure. Some of them are kind of idyllic and, like seem like amazing places to live. Some of them are places in great upheaval, like Vidrian, which we've really highlighted in second edition so far, is a former colonial nation that was called Sargava, which the colonial government was overthrown, and we are now exploring what it looks like in a post-colonial government trying to put together the future of that country. And then there are some places that are just like pretty sinister as well, like perhaps a city-state run by an undead child mummy god, and which there's so many different areas that all can be taken in really different directions in terms of tone, in terms of themes. There's any kind of campaign you wanted to play could be done in the MWANGI Expanse, because that is how much range there is, and all of that is in this book. So it's a pretty incredible resource for GMs, I think, who want to tell a specific type of story and want to find a setting that really sparks that story seed. They'll be able to do that with this book really well.
Thank you. It's really mind blowing. I can't wait to dive into it more than we already have. Thank you for sharing your perspectives on the MWANGI Expanse. Avi, let's go back to you and start wrapping things up. How can people find you? All of us are available, of course, to on the Paizo.com forums. Are you available on Twitter or social media or anywhere like that?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at LegalizeGoblins, and that is, I think, the only.
Yeah, that's fine. And do you have a Paizo Live spoiler for us this evening?
Yes. So this is not about any book that we've talked about so far. This is about Grand Bazaar, which is what I'm editing right now, the Lost Omens Grand Bazaar. Super cool book. One of the items included in it is not an item per se, but a vehicle. It's the bathysphere, which, if you don't know what that is a real-world early submersible used for marine biology research. It's a big orb, made of metal, big enough to fit 2 people in, and it was lowered down to the bottom of the ocean on a cable, and it was the first submersible that let marine biologists study deep sea animals in their native habitat. What on earth is that going to be used for in Pathfinder games? This is what I want to know. It's such a wild, random pull that there's this deep sea marine biology research submersible that we put in this book. I want to know what people do with this. When the book comes out, and you start using it, hit me up, Legalize Goblins on Twitter. Tell me what you're doing with the bathysphere. I'm super curious.
That's excellent. In my world, that's a very dwarven sort of thing, but we'll see what everybody does with it. Yeah. All right, gents, we've got 5 minutes for 2 more spoilers. Luis, where can people find you?
I have a website, luisloza.com, that happens to have links to pretty much anywhere I am. So I think that's the easiest way to point people, so I don't have to spell out my Twitter handle or anything like that. luisloza.com is the way to go.
And your Paizo Live spoiler for this evening.
I came in here with a spoiler, and then Tonya asked me to pay it forward with a different spoiler. So I'm just going to be very kind and give you so many spoilers today. I got 2 of them. So she mentioned I'm writing something that's going to be premiering at PaizoCon. I'm going to say that it is the first Starfinder one-shot. It's an adventure called Band on the Run, and I think it's a rockin' good time, so I hope people check that out.
Excellent. I will spoil and say that I'm in the midst of writing a blog about it that will appear early next week, so they won't have to wait long.
Yes.
And your second spoiler?
Second spoiler was also related to Grand Bazaar. I wanted to talk about how the Grand Bazaar has pretty much anything you want to find there, and we wanted to express that in the book as well. Not only do you have items and cool shops that you can visit, but we also added things like some archetypes that you can take, stuff like that. And the most tantalizing thing I think about that book is that it also features an ancestry. I'm not going to say what it is or anything about it, but I just know that Grand Bazaar also has an ancestry. So feel free to speculate for a while.
It's sort of the year of ancestries.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love that. Thank you very much. James, how can people find you?
Well, I'm sort of a social media hermit, I guess is what I call it. But I'm pretty active over on just at Paizo.com. So if you have any questions for me or just want to chat, just drop a line over on our message boards, and I'll probably find it sooner or later.
Excellent. Do you have a Paizo Live spoiler for us to wrap it up tonight?
Well, now I have to do 3, so it's been escalating from 1 to 2 to 3. So yeah, as for the first one, as Tonya mentioned, I'm writing the a one-shot adventure. I'm not going to spoil the title at this point. We're going to be talking about that, I think, pretty soon. But I will say that the title is sort of a pun, and I don't know if anybody's realized that it's how it's a pun yet. So there's that. It's pretty fun. It's about the party gets an invitation to attend a lovely dinner, and nothing goes wrong.
Nothing at all. It's a very boring dinner.
it's just a nutritious vacation from adventure. For the other 2 spoilers, I just want to throw 2 real quick things out about Malevolence. One of the things that I had a lot of fun with Malevolence is just sneaking a bunch of just in-world Easter eggs and callbacks and such into the storyline. So one of the characters in that adventure is Queen Ilios's great aunt. So there's sort of a callback to Curse of the Crimson Throne. There's callbacks to other adventure paths as well, but I think one of the things that I'm most delighted with how it worked out in as far as rules are concerned is there's a ritual you can learn as part of this adventure that will allow your player characters to cast the ritual Extract Brain. And what you do with those extracted brains is your business. Yeah, there's uses for extracted brains, I hear.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Wow. I'm going to find a way to post those on Twitter and social media and make sure that everybody hears about all these spoilers. That's incredible. Thank you all for joining me tonight. That's going to wrap up our 2 hours of Paizo Live, episode number 3. Thank you all for joining me from your homes this evening. Make sure that you follow Paizo's social media accounts to stay up to date. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We have a website with blogs nearly every day, and we're even on LinkedIn. So follow us, stay up to date. And now I want to I want us to do a little Twitch raid for those of you following us on Twitch. Stay on board, and we're going to raid the DAT Network's new Pathfinder 2nd Edition live play show. So thank you all for joining me, and enjoy Dragons and Things. Adventures ahead.